So I just found out about the passing of former professional boxer Pritchard Colon. Now, if you're not familiar with Pritchard Colon's story, it's one of the most tragic stories in boxing history. Combat sports history really is really sad. And yeah, Pritchard, he was of Puerto Rican heritage. He repped his Puerto Rican heritage with great pride. I think he was born in Florida, but he represented Puerto Rico. He moved to Puerto Rico and trained, and he represented the national team or something like that. He had a promising future. He was a boxer, lots of potential, very humble, had a good look to him, just had all the tools. He was just the makings of a star. And one fight changed it all. It just changed it all. Pritchard fought this guy by the name of, I think, Terrell Williams. It was Pritchard's last fight, and after that fight, Pritchard was never the same. He ended up being in the vegetative state for the rest of his life. He was only 33 years old. He passed, I think, either yesterday or 2 days ago. I can't remember. I'm sorry for screwing up the date he passed, but it was recent, super recent. And he was only 33 years old. And this guy he fought kept rabbit punching him in the back of the head. And anyone that knows anything about boxing, it's a huge no-no. You don't do that. And this guy kept doing it over and over and over. The ref didn't stop it at all. And and after the fight, Pritchard lost the fight. And in my opinion, he lost because of all of those illegal shots. And Pritchard was telling the ref, yo, what's the deal and stuff. And after the fight, I think Pritchard ended up collapsing, was in a coma for a long time, ended up waking up, but he was never the same. They're never the same. His family ended up taking care of him until his final days, and it was just sad to see. I would sometimes look at videos of him, and he's just gone, man. I would say, man, if he was able to remember his life, all of the things that happened in his life, even in that state, then it's even more tragic because it's like you're trapped in your own body, and that sucks, man. But yeah, I remember just watching that and just being really like choked up seeing that. And but it just has me thinking too about the whole situation as far as the referee and the opponent. Me personally, what I think the opponent should be in prison. That's what I think. Now, there's a whole bunch of people that want to debate this. Well, it's up to the ref to, make the call and this and that. And, yeah, the ref should probably be in prison too. You can make that judgment, but the way I look at it is even if the ref is not stopping you from cheap shotting people, you still shouldn't be cheap shotting people. Those were blatant shots he was pulling off and wasn't being penalized for it or nothing. So, I think he should be in prison for that. And he essentially killed that guy. And I get it, it makes me think about boxers and how they boast and brag about, people die in this sport. You don't play boxing, they play fighting, this and that. First of all, why are you bragging about your sport having the highest deaths? So what, like some of the highest deaths out of all sports? I don't think that's anything to brag about, especially in terms of being a self-defense, a martial art, a combat sport. If I take up any sort of martial art, I want to know that this martial art can keep me alive, keep me safe. Why would I want to take up a martial art, or why would I at least want to compete in a combat sport where so many people are freaking dying? To me, that tells me it's something wrong with the martial art. It's something wrong if all these people are dying from engaging in this combat sport. Maybe there are some flaws in the martial art that's being practiced. Hey, that's what I think. And I think it's odd that you see that a lot of these boxers, they boast and brag about, we died, dude, you don't play. Well, that's y'all bragging about that. I think y'all are idiots. I think a martial art, like I don't think there's been any deaths in jiu-jitsu or whatever, but jiu-jitsu can be deadly if a person doesn't let go of the choke. But obviously, people, they let go of chokes and stuff, but you can kill people doing in jiu-jitsu and stuff, but you don't die doing jiu-jitsu or whatever. But all the head trauma and all this stuff, if this many people are dying engaging in this combat sport, there's something wrong with the martial art. That's how I look at it. Now, obviously boxing has its value. It's great to know how to throw your hands and stuff. It's definitely one of the best offensive forms of fighting. But clearly, there are a lot of flaws in it. I mean, you have cases, rare cases like Floyd Mayweather, who's just unusually good at defending himself. You have rare cases like that, but there are so many opposite cases where these guys are ending up with head trauma. You look at James Toney. I can't understand a word James Toney says. It's like Chael Sonnen once said about, I think, Evanderlei Silva. He said his subtitles need subtitles. Well, the same thing can be said about James Toney. His subtitles need subtitles. That's just how bad it is. And you see this a lot with boxers, you know. So to brag about the fact that there are so many deaths in your sport, it's something wrong with the sport. That's how I look at it. It's something wrong with the martial art. It's something wrong with the self-defense, because that's essentially what martial arts is supposed to be about. Protecting yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of people use it as self-offense. People going around just picking fights with people and stuff. But yeah, man, it's tripped out, the whole story with Pritchard. And you hear guys talking about, well, yeah, that's why you don't play fighting and this and that. And like, even though combat sports, specifically boxing, I guess, can be very deadly and stuff like that, I don't look at it as this ultimate, oh my God, it's so scary. I still look at it as a game, to be honest with you. Okay, some games you can die playing them. I mean, shoot, you can die playing football. People die playing football. That doesn't mean football is any less of a game or a sport. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you should still look at it as a sport. But yeah, those are my thoughts. It's sad what happened to Pritchard. It really is. And, boxing, I mean, it's cool, to learn how to throw your hands or whatnot, throw some punches and stuff. But to make a career out of boxing, I don't know. I would never want to make a career out of any combat sport or sport in general that leads to so many deaths. That tells me there's something wrong with the martial art. There's something wrong with the fighting system. Yeah, I mean, now some people say, well, yeah, boxing is well, yeah. I mean, if you need to use it in dire situations to save yourself, if there's no way out other than to just throw your hands, fine. I mean, it's good to know something, but to make a career out of constantly just getting hit and then you're seeing what's happening to these people, that tells me there's a flaw in the fighting system. If this many people are dying from making a career out of it. Now, I know some people probably would debate it. Well, that doesn't mean there's a flaw in the fighting system. That just means there's a flaw in how referees are calling these fights or refereeing these fights. Well, that's not true, because a lot of boxers have died even while not being rabbit punched. I mean, in this particular situation, it's tragic because these were blatant illegal shots. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I think those guys should be in prison. But even if you take blatant illegal shots out of it, just legal shots, people are dying from taking legal shots, And even if they're not dying, they're getting CTE. Like, if you can't make a career, if you can't make a career out of this without really increasing the chances of you getting head trauma or dying or something, I don't know, man. To me, that tells me, okay, yeah, it's a cool thing to learn, how to punch, but it's probably not so good in terms of making a career out of it. There's a flaw somewhere in the boxing system, and everybody can't be Floyd. See, that's what I think. I think that's what I like about jiu-jitsu a lot, especially when it first came out, because the foundation of it, the premise was, it can work it can work for the small man or woman. It can just work for the small individual. Technique, that was always the foundation. You don't have to be super strong. You don't have to be super fast and an elite athlete. Unfortunately, nowadays, so many strong elite athletes have learned jiu-jitsu. Now it kind of took away the whole point of learning. Now all these strong people know the techniques, so it kind of sucks now. So you got to do a lot more thinking outside of the box in terms of how you're going to defend yourself out here, even if it's not with martial arts, even if it's with other sort of strategic tactics. But you get my point. The main point is, martial arts, they're like jiu-jitsu. The whole purpose was to keep you safe, minimize the chances of you being hurt. And aside from like broken bones and stuff like that, or maybe strained muscles and joints, you don't see people dying in jiu-jitsu. You don't see people getting hit CTE in jiu-jitsu. And that's the real thing to brag about. There's nothing to brag about in terms of, oh yeah, people die in this sport, bro. Like boxing, why y'all bragging about this? There's not bragging about a whole bunch of people dying in your sport is retarded. That's what I think. And like YouTube is so sensitive, I might even have to censor out the R word. You know, can't say anything, but it's silly, it's asinine. You know, so those are my thoughts, man. Rest in peace to Prichard Colon. Promising future, had star qualities, and his life was taken away much too soon. Rest in peace.